Today, on Starfield Essentials, I show how to enable two different free local AI services for Starfield. The first, Eve AI, changes the way NPCs and certain events happen in the game. The second, Project Frosty, adds a new in-game interface. I'll show how to install these using only free AI services running on your local computer. My name is Richard. Let's get started. Background. AI is a trigger issue for some people. In this video, I'm not talking about generative AI. I'm not using AI to generate any weird content. The tools I discuss today are mods that run on Steam for PC. Because of technical limitations, there is no way to run this on console, and it's probably more trouble than it's worth trying to run them on Xbox for PC. However, I treat these mods as examples of the sort of developments we will eventually see in many video games. Next generation platforms, whether a console, PC, or handheld, will likely have local neural processing units, and developers will increasingly rely on them for controlling in-game activities. So, perhaps when a future Bethesda game is running on the Xbox Project Helix or Sony PlayStation 6, the sorts of AI capabilities you see in this video will be native to the experience. I ran these mods on my main gaming PC, which has a NVIDIA 4070 Ti Super GPU with 16 gigs of VRAM. You generally don't need a setup with that much power to run these mods though. Next, installing Eve AI. Let's start with Eve AI. This is the easiest of the two mods, but it does have some issues which I will warn you about. Eve AI by Dysmorphis is available free on Nexus Mods. This mod is totally self-contained, in contrast to Project Frosty. You don't have to provision your own local AI model, as Dysmorphis conveniently packages everything for you. The hardware requirements are reasonable. There are two options, both using the free Qwen 3 model. One is the 1.7 billion parameter model, and the other is the 0.6 billion parameter model. You need to install these requirements before the mod: Starfield Script Extender, Cassiopeia Papyrus Extender, and the address library. After ensuring you have the mod prerequisites in place, you have to choose and download a model. I downloaded Eve Combat AI backend version 0.6.2_1.7b.zip. Extract it, and then run evecontrolcenter.exe. Choose Install, then Start. If you have a keen eye, you will see that this installation process copies a file called sfse_http.dll from the model's zip directory to the data sfse plugins directory. This will work, but it's a problem for mod management. Because sfse_http.dll is not part of the Eve mod, which we will install shortly, that file is likely not handled by your mod manager. I left a message for Dysmorphis on Nexus Mods asking if they would consider packaging sfse_http.dll with the Eve AI mod itself to fix this issue. Until that happens, just beware that this extra DLL might stick around if you remove Eve AI using your mod manager. Finally, we have to install the Eve AI mod itself. I installed version 0.6.2, matching the model package, which was the latest as of the day I wrote this script. Next, configuring Eve AI. I needed to enter a couple console commands to make sure Eve was running. I had to find the Quest form ID for the Eve adapter and the Eve director. I opened a console and ran help Eve adapter Quest 4, and I got the value 0E000806. And I ran help Eve director Quest 4, and I got the value 0E000817. Now that I had these quest form IDs, in the console I ran start quest 0E000806 and start quest 0E000817. Note that if I choose to make a save and then update this mod in the future, I'll need to run stop quest for each form ID, save the game, update, and then restart those form IDs. Check the Eve console commands.md file in the model directory for more options. Personally, I enabled as many options as I could for testing purposes. These included those you see on the screen. For example, making sure that the Eve Combat AI was on, making sure I could see combat notifications, making sure I could see reinforcement notifications. These are when the model adds additional NPCs to combat. I turned on Eve Companions, although I didn't really have a companion with me. I turned on the notifications, and I also turned on the auto spawning of POIs, which was pretty cool, although it only happened a couple times. Next, running Eve AI. With these configurations set, I ran around looking for adversaries to fight, and that's what I showed earlier in the video. As I engaged them, I could see Eve AI reporting what it was telling the enemy NPCs to do. And you can see off to the right, that is a POI that Eve AI spawned on its own, which is pretty cool. It's got some random junk. It's got some NPCs over there. I've got some UC Marines that I spawned with NPC Spawner Danger Zone with me as well. So let's go ahead and run over and we'll check out these guys, see what they're up to. And we'll check for Eve AI messages as, oh, I got one. There we go. Well, we'll see what happens. So now that there are some enemy NPCs in the world, Eve AI is going to control them, and we'll see what sort of instructions. There, we see Eve suppress. That was the most common instruction I saw when engaging with enemy NPCs, but I also saw Eve AI using the flank and swarm commands as well. I also ran a couple test commands to prompt specific activities. These included the ones you see on the screen, the test reinforcement, which adds a new dropship, and I kept spawning those early in the video. And I also hit the test placement, which spawned a fixed test POI, which didn't really do anything. It's not like these dynamic POIs where there are bouncing equipment and NPCs to engage. This isn't just for outdoors combat either, although you can't get reinforcement drop ships when you're running around inside. But here you can see when you interact with an NPC in combat, you'll get some messages about the encounter. And so you just saw that there was a suppress instruction going on, and now we're getting a flank message, which is cool. So there are likely enemy NPCs that are nearby that the AI is trying to tell them to flank me, which is neat. And now we're getting a reinforcement message, but I don't know if the reinforcement works because typically the reinforcements are done by dropship. So is it landing a dropship outside? I'm not sure. I noticed that when I either spawned enemy ship reinforcements or when Eve AI told them to spawn, they sometimes clipped with the terrain. This wasn't a big deal for me. Overall, this was a fun experience, and I consider it a work in progress. It seemed like I was taking a hit in FPS in certain situations, but I'd need to do more testing and measuring to be sure. Starfield and all other games with combat have some form of enemy AI, so using an open model like Quen to control NPC behavior is just implementing another tool. Let me know if you try it and what you think of it. Next, installing Project Frosty. Let's look at a second AI implementation for Starfield. Project Frosty by OmaOps is available on Nexus Mods. This mod is a little more complicated and provides a different player experience. Project Frosty adds an overlay to the game that a player can query. To be honest, I don't think it's that useful in its present form, but I'm including it because it shows more innovation in the Starfield modding space. It's also a platform for expansion for other features. Unlike Eve AI, you have to either bring your own model or connect to a hosted model. For my testing, I brought my own free model. First, I installed LM Studio, a free program which manages and controls AI models. Funny enough, when installing LM Studio, it prompted me to download the exact model that I wanted to use for this project, Google's Gemma 4 E4B. This requires 9.6 gigs of VRAM, but I used it because OmaOps recommended it for local use, and it has the vision capabilities I need to make Frosty work. After I installed the model, I selected the Developer tab, chose the model, loaded the model, and started it. It's important to see the message that the model is reachable at the local host address on port 1234. For mod requirements, Project Frosty also needs the Starfield script extender and the address library. Next, I installed the Project Frosty mod using my Vortex mod manager. It consists of an ESM, a PEX or compiled papyrus file, and a DLL, all of which are packaged properly for management by Vortex or your mod manager. Next, configuring Project Frosty. Before starting Starfield, you need to be sure your Starfield custom.ini file has a certain entry. Normally I use this. However, for Frosty to work, we need to make this change. Also, I can't be certain what caused the conflict, but I was only able to get Frosty to work completely trouble-free when I did not have any other DLL-based mods running. With the mod installed and Starfield custom.ini changed, I started Starfield. Running the game once created a ryujin.ini configuration file in the data sfse plugins directory. This is what the file looked like after I made the changes that I will mention next. The key to my next steps lies in the last entry. The default on value is 0, which means that in order to get access to the Frosty interface, I would need to complete a quest. I was not interested in this. So after I started Starfield and let the Frosty DLL create this ryujin.ini configuration file, I exited the game. I then edited the file so on changed from 0 to 1. I could have also edited the other entries manually, but I preferred to follow the modder's guidance and configure it within the in-game interface. Also, the mod directions told me I needed to change Starfield from full screen to windowed mode, but it didn't seem to make a big difference for me. To get Frosty running, I opened its window using the / key. I could also use Ctrl-Alt-F. To configure the local model, I entered star provider equal LM Studio. I didn't need to add an API key, so I entered star key equals. I changed the hotkey to open the Frosty window by using this command, star hotkey equals tick. I didn't have to do this, I just wanted to try it and see what it would look like. With these changes made, I could interact with the model. Next, running Project Frosty. With my local model configuration, Frosty is basically an AI that you can ask to tell you about what it sees on screen. OmaOps tested the mod using Gemini, which has the ability to query the internet to answer questions. I couldn't get that working with my configuration, so I asked Frosty what it saw and if it had any recommendations for what I should do. In general, this was a bit of a slow process that didn't yield anything useful. I definitely consider Frosty to be a proof of concept. It basically allowed me to test a model's ability to read a screen and interpret what it does. Make sure that you change that be always active from 1 to 0 if you have that in your Starfield custom.ini file, because otherwise Frosty's going to try to interact and it's going to be seeing a moving screen and it's not going to really work that well. And also, any keys that you press while the game is playing in the background that you're trying to send to Frosty, the game is going to intercept. So if you try to type W to ask what, it's going to result in a movement command inside of Starfield. So make sure that you have your Starfield custom.ini configured properly before you try to use Frosty. Conclusion. I'm glad I tried these new mods, and I expect to see more development on both of them. There's a third I plan to try soon, but it seems more complicated than these two. It adds AI capabilities to NPCs, so I look forward to seeing what I can do with it. Thank you, Dysmorphis and OmaOps, for your work. And thank you to all my subscribers. Please consider subscribing to show YouTube that you enjoy positive and honest Starfield content. In addition to videos, I also post to the community tab for this channel on a daily basis. If you subscribe, you'll see these posts in your YouTube feed. Special thanks to all channel members. I hope you're enjoying our private Discord server, early access to these videos, and members-only live streams. If you'd like to know more about membership, click the join button on the channel. I use your contributions to pay for drives for capturing footage, to buy creations to review, and to pay the monthly fee for StreamYard, which I use for live streams. If you made it to this part of the video, please leave a comment with the word robot. Check out my other videos, and please tell your friends about the channel. My name is Richard. I will see you in the Starfield.